here today with our friend, mentor, and realtor extraordinaire, Kevin Kauffman. Kevin, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Happy to be here, Jason. Thank you.
Awesome. So as you guys know here, Kevin, what we like to do here at Expedition U is we deal specifically with interviewing and really just having, deep conversations with entrepreneurs who have, everybody's got a backstory. Everybody's got a place they came from, a time that they were amazing, a time that they sucked, the kind of the ways that they've grown, and people that have fed into them along the way. Kind of that one person, if you kind of look back and you go, man, without that guy, without that relationship, or whether it's a mom, a dad, a mentor, a business partner, I wouldn't be here. And then what we really like to go beyond that is kind of, what's your trajectory, where are you going, and who are you bringing along with you? What we kind of talk about is there's an old statement of, if I have seen further than those before me, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. I mean, right. You're familiar with that one.
Absolutely.
And so that's really what I think it was Isaac Newton that said that, actually. But and that's really what we like to focus on, because the world today is so much about the me business, right? And I know you specifically, you're in the we business, right?
Yep.
And so kind of just give us kind of a background. I mean, I know you run the, 4610 group there in Phoenix.
Yeah. Phoenix area. I'm sitting in Tempe, Arizona. But yeah, greater Phoenix area, group 4610's the name of our real estate sales team. When I say we or our, I'm referring to my business partner, Fred Weaver. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this: how far back do you want me to go on that? This could take up a minute or two. So you gotta be careful when you give me an open mic like that, Jason.
So, okay, let's get a little more specific. So first of all, how long you been in real estate? What brought you to real estate?
Perfect. Okay, cool. So I got licensed and it was the end of May, beginning of June of 2007. So we're sitting on, is that 14 years now? Something like that. 15. I don't know. It's been a minute. It's been a while. So June of 2007. And as you can imagine, in the Phoenix market, things were not good. Literally had friends.
I was going to say that was a hell of a time to come in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my third transaction ever was a short sale. So, I mean, if that tells you anything about my
that speaks
introduction
volumes
to the industry, right? Third deal ever was a short sale. So I got licensed in 07, which, laughing about it, because everyone was like, oh man, it's such a horrible time to get started. It was a great time to get started. I loved it. And even especially now, knowing what I know now, even better. I'm so glad I started then. I'm really glad and thankful that I started then and learned in that market. Prior to getting into real estate, I had, I was kind of trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to be when I grew up. I was the guy that I always was really lucky. I had jobs that I was underqualified for, always overpaid for my qualification level, but somehow managed to make it work. But there was a point when I realized, like, hey, I'm not cut out to really have a job. I'm not a good employee. And I had this realization of, like, I'm gonna have to learn how to be my own boss one day. And so I just started going back to school. I had tried college like twice before, and it just wasn't really my thing. And so I decided to go back, and I was working full time and I was going to school full time at a community college. And I was so fortunate. I met this man, Professor Goodner, who he just kind of, he made an impact, man. He made a huge impact. One day we came into class and he said, hey, today we're not going to talk about, I don't know, whatever was on the syllabus, right? I think the class was on like business plans or something. And he said, we're going to talk about real estate and money. And for the next 45 minutes, he kind of taught like a rich dad, poor dad lesson. And it blew my mind.
So you got your tuition's worth out of that conversation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I asked him, could I buy him some coffee or breakfast or lunch or something? And luckily he spent some time with me and made an impression. I ended up taking whatever class he taught for the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 semesters. He basically taught to sort of give back. He made his full-time living through his investments. And I knew that I wanted to like learn as much from him as I possibly could. One of the things that he taught me was like, hey, you don't just like wake up and become an investor. Like luckily he's like, you're going to need a job. Like you're going to be working for at least 5 more years. So, but in my mind, I thought, why not just work in real estate? That was literally why I got a real estate license. Cause I thought, oh yeah, I'll just get a job in the thing I want to do anyways, which is real estate. So that's kind of what set me on my path to eventually, a couple of years after meeting Professor Goodner, decide to get licensed and just go for it. Because I realized like eventually I had to kind of jump off and make it happen. So a lot of things changed along the way. And I realized I enjoyed the business of real estate, but nonetheless, I got into real estate sales thinking I'll do this because I need a job until I can make enough money for my investments. And that was really the thing that set me off. And it just happened to be timing wise 2007, right? When things were falling apart. And the rest is history, as they say.
So, a couple of interesting things there. I mentioned at the beginning, about the me business versus the we business. But the funny thing is, and tell me if you feel the same way, is I find a growing number of people that are successful entrepreneurs that even though they're in the we business, they're great team leads, but they're terrible team players, right? And that's not a negative thing, but it's like, I'm never going to be a good follower, right? Which is why I was a bad employee.
Yeah.
Right. I can lead the charge. I don't mind taking the first round of fire. I don't mind being in the front in the most dangerous position, but I have a really hard time following behind the next guy and saying, what am I supposed to do? I mean,
No,
that's tough in this business.
Yeah, I think that's dead on. Some people are, cut out for certain things, or maybe their behavior just sort of lends itself to certain roles, which is okay. And totally great. And some people not so much, kind of more of, like you said, like they can lead, but they're probably not a great follower or teammate, if you will. I was thinking of like one of my mentors earlier in my career, he used a lot of sports analogies, kind of like, the difference in being the best, like some people are great, amazing coaches. Other people can be like great players, right? So like Michael Jordan probably would not have made a great coach, is my
Yeah,
hunch, right?
he's a doer.
Right. And so there's a big difference. It's not, and obviously that's not taking anything away from Michael Jordan, but I realized early on I wanted to be the coach, not the star. And so, and I think there's a lot that probably could be unpacked there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of get into the people building business, and it's the selfish, unselfish version of, I don't need to outsell everybody on my team, right? I want to see them come in, this is not a very popular statement, but we deal with a lot of what we call FNGs, new guys. I want them to come in, broke, hungry, and just willing to learn. And when you see those people go from driving a jalopy, afraid they have to park around the corner to the listing appointment because they don't want their car out front of the house when they go into a listing appointment. And fast forward 18 months, they're making $150,000 a year. I mean, that's so satisfying, just to see their progression, and I just want to be a part of that progression for them, which I know that, let's give you a minute here. So brag, I want you to take 2 minutes and talk about your team, your sales volume, what you're doing. I know you're doing huge things at eXp Realty. So, I mean, take a couple minutes and just throw out some numbers for everybody to get inspired.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, so my business partner, Fred, and I, so we've worked together now since February of '08. So 14 years. And we we've had our ups and downs. There's no doubt about it. And it was kind of like anybody else. Like at first it's just straight up, and then we've had our downfalls. We've sold as many as 550 homes in a year. The reality is we
Wow.
sell on average a couple hundred homes a year, 100 to 125 million in volume. Used to sound like a lot. It sounds like almost nothing these days compared to some of the numbers I see being put up. What I'm more proud about though is I don't spend a lot of time in that business. And I don't say that from a bragging standpoint, or I don't like to be with those people in that business. I mean, because it's a business. It doesn't take me and or Fred working 40 hours each to make that thing run. So, we'll sell, like I said, a couple hundred homes this year. I'll work about an hour a week, total in that business. And Fred will probably work 3 to 5 hours a week total in that business. And,
He's making you look bad.
yeah, he does, but that's okay. I spend some time other places, right? And so we do okay. It's not amazing, but it's amazing
Well,
for us.
no, but I mean, But the reality is, though, when you look at the standard metrics of what a team lead does, I mean, the average team's not doing 200 deals a year. The average team's doing 50 probably, and then to be able to have that well-oiled machine that's doing that with you putting in, a couple hours a week. I mean, that is something to be proud of. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, especially in this business that's got so many moving pieces. I mean, not that all businesses don't, but real estate specifically, I mean, you've got market changes, you've got buyers and sellers, and just there's 25 different touch points in every transaction, multiplied times 200, multiplied times buyers and sellers by industry changes and everything else. So I mean, to have created that is huge. But I know you're putting in a lot of hours a week working. So if you're not doing it, managing that, what are you spending your time on?
Well, you referenced part of it, right? Sort of my main focus these days is our EXP bit, what I call our EXP business, right? And so,
Mhm.
I look at that as like a network, or you could look at it as like an independent brokerage in a way. I know it's not an independent brokerage. It is definitely more of a network and it's a community to me. And that's the thing that has always fired me up and gotten me excited throughout my career is communities. And so I spent a lot of my time with folks like you, right? We're in the same real estate EXP real estate community. And so that is where the lion's share of my time goes, whether that's creating content, meeting with the agents, um, doing some mentoring with some of the agents, and or out prospecting to build that business. And obviously I spent a good portion of my time doing that uh on the EXP side. And then I got a few other things like podcast and a few other things business wise that Fred and I have our hands in that don't take a lot of time, but they take a little bit of time. And then
Sure.
more importantly, man, I've used this. I've used my last, what, I guess 15 years or whatever in the industry as a way to create a life to where I can, I try to, my day is designed around my life and what is more important to me, which is my kids, and
Sure.
taking care of myself and family. So the truth is, I don't. If the me from like 2010 was talking to the me from today, he'd be disgusted. It used to be like Fred and I would race to get to the office, see, like, and if you got there after 7, basically you're going to be made fun of. Whereas now there's plenty of days that I'm getting before 10, right? Because I'm taking the kids to school. I'm then spending some time at home, like working out, hanging out in the sauna or cold plunge, or just doing something kind of take care of my mind and self. And um, so I don't want to say I'm not in growth mode. I am, but it's very controlled growth mode, and I'm only willing to do it within certain constraints.
Well, but that's huge though, because the thing is in the entrepreneurial lifestyle and even in real estate, from the word go, like you jump in and you have to be all things to all people at all times. And obviously the ultimate goal is to be wanted but not needed
Yeah,
in your business, right?
yeah,
Right. I mean,
that's so true. That is so true, to be wanted but not needed. And I mean, even when I was doing the doing, if you will, going on the appointments, being the listing agent, and spending all the time, even as I progressed through with the agents on the team, I've always subscribed to the concept of there's no such thing as an emergency in real estate. There just isn't. I don't work 24/7. I never have. I didn't work weekends from the get go. I've worked very few weekends in my career because I've chosen not to. And that's just the choice I've made. And for good or bad, it's the it's kind of like it's the boundaries I've chosen to kind of play in between, I guess. And I feel like there's parts where I've probably, I don't want to say hurt myself. That's probably not a good use of probably not the best description, but I would say I probably could have gone further faster had I worked more, during been willing to travel a little bit more or work a little bit longer hours. But the reality is, and once my first daughter was born, I was basically unwilling to not be home for dinner and to not be home on the weekends and stuff like that. And so, I've had a very controlled schedule for,
well,
God,
but I
10
think a
years
lot of
now.
that comes, you could look at the negatives of that, right? I mean, you could look at, I had somebody, so my kids are all gone, right? I got a 22, 24, and a 25-year-old. So our house is empty. We got 4,600 square feet and it's me and my wife. right? I mean, by the way, it's glorious. It's quiet every night. It's amazing. But that being said, I had somebody ask me recently that said, Jason, how do you manage work-life balance? And I was like, there is no balance. I work and then I go home. That's the balance, right? But you're in a different position. But the thing is what you're doing, even though, I mean, 99% of agents, when you say I don't work weekends, kind of just like their eyes bug out. They go, what do you do? How do you not work weekends? But the discipline of having set that up in the very beginning, discipline is discipline, regardless of where you're putting it in place, right? And so even though you had those disciplines that may be outside the normal construct of what people expect, the ability to set those disciplines has benefited you as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, to me, it's really not. I mean, it's an expectation, discipline, expectation, whatever you want to call it. I just made a decision, right? And then I stuck to it. And the thing I believed, and maybe it's because it was kind of maybe pounded in my head, was that I could do that as long as I took care of what I needed to take care of during the hours I work. Right. So meaning
Sure.
I can choose to say, hey, I'm not working Saturday, or I'm not working Sunday, or I'm not working Saturday or Sunday. And as long as I set that up with my clients as an expectation from the get-go, then I'm allowed to do that. And no one thinks differently. However, if I don't set the expectation and then I also don't work when I'm working, I'm screwed, right? So if someone says, hey, I don't want to hire you because you don't work Sundays, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm totally good with that. Would you like me to refer you out? Right. I don't, I'm not afraid of losing any one deal. No one deal is more important than my mental health, the time I get with my family, etc. But it's really hard to wrap your mind around that when you don't know when your next deal is coming or where it's coming from. So when
Sure.
you do that, but you and I, but anybody who's been in real estate for any period of time that has had any sort of sustained success knows that the income in real estate's actually very predictable. And it's predictable based on the things that you do day in and day out. The hard part is we think it's not predictable because the outcome doesn't show up for 90 or 180 days. So it's
Mm-hmm.
one of my friends and kind of mentors in the industry, Russell Shaw, told me, he's like, the great thing about real estate is when you do something today, it doesn't matter. So if you screw around today, like, it's not going to impact your paycheck next month. The the bad thing about real estate is if you screw around today, it's not going to impact your paycheck for a couple of months, right? So it's like the good and the
Mm-hmm.
bad. And so I know that if you just spend your time, and if you're just consistent with your activities and what you do, you'll have enough. Like, there's enough people that are willing to work with you within business hours. Now, if you're an agent who's like only working with buyers because it's the very part of your beginning of your business and you haven't learned to take listings yet, I'm not saying you're not going to need to work some weekend hours, but you can still take 2 days off a week. I can promise you that. It's really just
Sure.
about two things: setting expectations with the clients so that way they know what is expected and what it's like to work with you. And then number two, busting your ass to go get as much business as you can for the hours that you are willing to work. And if you do those two things,
It's
you can
funny.
work whenever you want.
Well, it's funny you say that because, it's kind of a tongue in cheek joke, but it's really not a joke, because people go, they come in, and I have two things. I always tell them, if you want to do what I do, you got to do what I do. Right.
Yep.
And so there's that. But then I also tell people, I'm very honest about the fact I make a very healthy income, and I work really, really hard, 30 hours a week.
Yes.
I mean, it's a tough 30 hours, but it's still 30 hours. You're making $18 an hour, 60 hours a week. And, I'm making much better money, 30 hours a week, but it's a rough 30 hours.
Yeah. The thing about it is it's not, there's no prize for most hours worked. There's no, they don't
It's called divorce.
automatically, yeah, like they don't pay you 4%. I don't know if we should say percents, but they don't, like, you don't get a bonus as a selling agent or a like a listing agent or a selling agent because you worked more hours on the deal. Like, there is no bonus for that. This is a
Sure.
game about one of my good friends and mentors, Ben Kenny, has always told me, is like, you really have to pay attention to your personal per hour income. Meaning when you're working, like, it's gotta be at a certain level. Like, you can't be doing things that aren't that aren't going to produce the income that you need to make per hour. Like for it to be, as my brother would always teach me when I was, growing up, is like the juice has got to be worth, it's got to be worth the squeeze. Juice
Squeeze.
has, and
Absolutely.
so, it's kind of like that. Yeah. People find like, it's like virtuous for whatever reason and it's like the addiction that is, not just okay, but it's like, celebrated, which is workaholism. Right. So for some reason that's the thing. And I'm like, you know, I don't know. That just never made a lot of sense to me. I think it's because I've joked about myself saying this recently, and it's, there's a lot of truth in it, but it's said as, kind of tongue in cheek, which is I'm not sure if I am lazy but ambitious or if I'm ambitious but lazy. It's definitely one of those two things, right?
I'm
Because
writing that down.
like, but the reality is like I've been around a lot of guys, specifically men who were, further down the road than me. I'll call it 50s, 60s, 70s to varying degrees of success, but really high. And the vast majority of them were that I've met and I've spent, and this is across all industries, by the way.
Mhm.
Not this is not a real estate thing, although I know it's prevalent in real estate. The vast majority of them who have like gotten to a point financially where they're like not just well off, but like really well off, they're all, I don't want to say all, the majority of them are trying to get their time back with their kids and their families and the people, they're on a second or third marriage, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like sometimes it doesn't work out. And sometimes the reason it didn't work out is because you were so involved in your work and not didn't pay attention to your family. Right. And so they've got kids that won't talk to them and all that stuff. Like I'm not blaming any of them. And I've just seen this big pool of very successful people, like large pool, hundreds, that was the common theme of like they're all trying to get back into relationship with their kids or their spouse or their third spouse or whatever. And I was like, dude, I'm not saying I won't have problems and I don't have problems. I do. Everybody does. And I'm not letting work be the thing that ever creates that problem for me. Like it's just not, that's not on the table for me.
Well, it's funny that you're talking about that because I've played both sides of that coin. I've been an entrepreneur since 2002, came into real estate in 2014, and specifically came into real estate because I wasn't present. And I knew that, I mean, I was 40 years old. I didn't buy a sports car. I sold my house, sold my business, and went into real estate at 40 years old. I mean, so that was my shift. And I did it specifically because my daughter was going into high school. I had two in intermediate school, and I had been gone working for 11, 12, 13 years, and I realized I had a finite amount of time for them to have memories of me being present.
Yeah.
And real estate has done that. Oh, and by the way, I 3x'd my income. That was cool too.
Well, that's the thing is when you get really clear about what actually matters during work time, right? You realize what levers actually matter and you can just pull those. You can just pull the levers that
Mhm.
matter the most and watch your income go up while your hours go back.
Absolutely. So you talked about your EXP business. So when did you guys make the shift over to EXP? What made you do that, and what makes you stay?
So we made this shift we made the move over in June of 2018. So just over 4 years ago now.
Okay.
We had made, there was two decisions really. We were leaving Keller Williams, which was the only place I had known, for spent my first 11 years there. And then we had to find a home and it took about a year. Truthfully, we hadn't even considered EXP until about a month before we made the move. So
Oh, wow.
we made the move to EXP because once we were open-minded enough, it just made the most sense. What I mean by that is we knew about EXP. We knew people at EXP. We just were unwilling to look at it prior to then. We had these preconceived notions around what it was and who the agents were that were there. And so we finally looked at it May of 2018 and we moved June of 2018, right? So 4+ years later, the thing that keeps me here is it's what I mentioned earlier, like it's the community. People will talk about what gets the headlines of stock and rev share, right? And
Sure.
those things are great. Rev share is amazing, life changing, even so is the stock for that matter. And what people don't realize is not everybody participates in revenue share. Like they don't actually actively go out and try to grow the company like I do. but everybody in the company benefits because of rev share. It's because of rev share that people are so willing to be so open, because it puts our businesses in alignment with each other. So when your business grows, my business grows. And because of that, like it just creates this community and this camaraderie that can't be matched by anything else I've ever seen. And at the end of the day, so it comes down to the people, is I guess what I'm saying.
It's funny because, I started off at ReMax, and I started at ReMax specifically because when I came out and did the whole broker interview, and everybody said, don't go to ReMax. That's where all the sharks are. You need to have experience before you go to ReMax because you're going to be flying alone. And I was like, well, if everybody says I shouldn't go there, that's where I'm going. So I went to ReMax and bought at the brokerage I was at, you had to buy your split, and I had to buy an office. I literally, they were touring the office with me. And I mean, I'm broke at this point, because I'm saving all my money to feed my wife and kids while I create this new business. And I ended up renting the broom closet for an office.
Oh man.
Because I could get it for like $100 a month. They literally moved all the mop buckets and stuff out, and I slammed a desk in there. I mean, you had to like squeeze between the desk and the wall to sit down. And I sold $12 million in that office. But the thing is that there was no community, right? And so then I went to Coldwell because they wrote me a check. Right. That was how they recruited. They were like, hey, come here for 3 years and we'll give you this money. And I was like, well, it's the same thing I'm doing here. So sure. But then that's the guy that's got 1 year left on his contract and he's going to retire and he gets a huge signing bonus to go to this team. There's no loyalty. He owes them 300 at bats.
Yeah, exactly. That's all that is. Yeah.
And so EXP, and the funny thing is, and I won't mention names, but the last brokerage I was at, I told him, I was like, listen, I'm going to grow a team. I want to get a separate office. I want to stay with you guys, but I want to have my own office and grow it internally and build this big team. And they spent hours and weeks ignoring me and saying, you can't do that. And I was like, why would you tell me not to grow? And so then I finally told them, I was like, hey, I'm going to EXP. Well, then they flew in the corporate vice president, the regional manager. I flew in all these people and sat down. They're like, we'll do this. We'll open your office. We'll give you this much money and we'll do all this thing. And I was like, you already told me what your value of me is.
Yeah.
Right. And I can take this money from you. And in 6 months, you're going to think the same of me that you did a month ago before I said I was leaving.
Yep.
And that was when we came to EXP. And because and honestly, our mutual friend, a great friend, Jimmy Franklin and Andrew Franklin, because I had looked at, I think Next Home, I had looked at EXP, and I'm just still borderline pissed at myself because I looked at EXP 3 years earlier and didn't go. And, went and had that other bad relationship. Right.
It's funny. I say all of us have the same, because I talk to people all the time that aren't here yet. And, everybody joined at the same time, which is not soon enough. We all joined at the same day, not soon enough. It doesn't matter when you joined. Everyone wished they joined sooner. Me too. And I'm so thankful I'm here, and I'd rejoin again today.
So yeah, when I went to EXP though, I was like, I'm gonna go find the biggest, baddest mother effer in town that's already EXP, and that's who I'm gonna go under. Because I had other agents try to recruit me, and I was like, dude, I'm not about that. Whatever, you guys go do your thing. I'm here to sell stuff, right? We've all had that conversation 1,000 times.
Absolutely.
And so I went and sat down with Jimmy and Andrew, and I took my wife with me because she does all of the money. I just sell shit. Excuse my language. That's all I do, right? If it's money, she could have a bank account in Puerto Rico and I wouldn't know about it because I haven't paid a bill in 12 years. She handles everything. And I took her with me. I was like, hey, you need to come, listen to this conversation. And we walked out and she's like, Jason, I just did the math. If you had sold the exact same thing, she goes, with no rev share, no stock, no nothing. If you had sold the exact same production at EXP last year that you did at this other brokerage, you would have made $25,000 more. Sign up.
Ball game over. Yeah.
Yeah. Done.
It's funny though. Like, I think that just goes to prove, I think that EXP has the best model on the planet, and it's just not about that. That's not why agents make the move. Very few people are actually strictly numbers driven. Psychologically, people can't just see numbers. And
Sure.
so because of that, it's I mean, it's the people, right? It is the people, and it's the tribe, if you will, and the fact that there are such great people. That's what's helped us to grow, because the model's been the model for a long time. If it was all about the model,
Hmm.
the company would already be a couple 100,000 agents, but it's not yet. And
Sure.
so it's really about, because you could just do math, right? Math is 1 + 1 always equals 2. And so we could look at how, when you start factoring in rev share and stock on top of that, like, it's kind of I mean, it's literally a no brainer if you're just looking at numbers.
The funny thing is, without getting too specific, I accidentally made 80 grand my first year at EXP on stock. I mean, that was kind of cool. I didn't
Yeah.
mind that. That was nice
Doesn't
because
suck.
I mean,
It's not
that
terrible,
didn't suck.
right?
So, and if you don't want to talk specifics, feel free to tell me to shut up. But you kind of glazed over building your tribe and building your
Oh yeah.
community and the we of your business. And you've only been here 4 years. So how deep is your tribe at EXP?
So assuming you're talking about like how big is our revenue share group, it's
Sure.
1,924 people, I think this morning when I last checked, and
So that's
growing.
about the population of a 5A high school.
Yeah. So which is, it's amazing, right? So it keeps growing, whether I do something or not, though I keep doing things to help it grow faster. So as I
Sure.
mentioned earlier, that's a big portion of my working activities go towards making that grow, making that grow faster. So it's awesome. I love it. And yeah, I'm not sure how far, like, what specific details you want to go into on that. I'm happy to share. I'm an open book, so I'm happy to share. But 1,924 people, I think 41 direct to me, what we call FLAs, and like I want to
Hmm.
say 32 of those are FLQAs. A couple of those are like husband and wife team. So three or four of them can't be an FLQA to me. And then a few other people. So yeah, 32 FLQAs just logged in, and 41 FLAs,
So,
meaning
the funny thing is,
frontline agents. So 41 people have named me as their sponsor, and that those 41 have turned into 1,924 people total in my, what I'd call 7 levels, or my rev share group.
that's like that whole compound interest thing, right? I mean, the funny thing is when you look at, God, dude, I'm not going to go talk to 1,900 people. Holy crap. I got bills to pay. I can't do that. I mean, but when you start looking at the metrics of how that works and the fact of, you know, I literally, in the conversation that I had with Jimmy Franklin when I came on, I was like, bro, listen, love it. I'm in. I'm not a recruiter, right? That's not my thing, but by happy accident, we've got 17 agents on our team. We've got a bunch of other people that have come in, and it really took a mental shift for me because I had never been at a brokerage or in an office where I really cared about sharing it, right? Because I mean, it was business. I was at ReMax, or I was at Coldwell, or I was at other places, and it was like, this is where I hang my shingle, right? This is the broker. I need somebody up there so that I can go do what I do. But the thing is for me, the paradigm shift was, it's really not about recruiting, it's about sharing.
It's not at all. In fact, what I've found, um, not to say that this isn't without exception, it is, but mostly what I found is great recruiters don't actually do that very well at EXP. And the reason why is this is not your prototypical recruiting game. This is more about operating a business, operating a community, and helping people become part of a tribe, or a community. And so recruiters, um, not to say that there aren't some that have done well at EXP and done well, we could, to varying degrees, you can define that however you want. But I've seen a lot of really good recruiters, people that I saw at other companies who recruit well in the traditional real estate brokerage model, just basically flail and flounder and just get up, basically pack their bags and leave, because this is different. This is not the traditional real estate brokerage model where an office manager recruits to a single location. This just isn't it. And so what I found is that it's actually, when people say I'm not a great recruiter, I say that's good. You have that going for you. That means you have a chance to grow something.
Well, And a perfect example is, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I met you out in San Diego, and it was really cool for me. Our team's decent. I mean, my standards being my standards, I'm always happy, never satisfied. Right.
Yeah, I get that.
We'll do 50 million this year, a couple hundred transactions, and we're going to blow up past that. We're going to continue to grow. Last year we did 30 million. We'll do 50 million this year. We'll do 75 million next year. And we're in growth mode. But the thing is to go and be able, you talk about community, and to sit down in that room, and I'm in the room with a guy that's doing 600 million. I'm in the room with somebody that's doing 250 million. You're like, we do a couple hundred a year, and I spend 3 hours a month on it. So to get in that community though, and just like be a student, right? Because we spend so much time being a teacher, that to be able to walk in and be the freshman, not the senior, is so important in our business.
Yeah. I feel like people don't put themselves in those positions enough purposefully. Right. And that's, again, that's why this works for me so well, is I very purposefully want to be in that position. I want to be in that room. And which is why I'm constantly trying to create that room, because it's the room I want to be in. And so it's just so valuable. I know that my business has grown when I've gotten in bigger thinking rooms, gotten around people doing more and different from me. That's when my business tends to grow the most, and which is why it's so valuable.
Absolutely. So I know you got a lot of things going on, but I want to finish up with where are you guys headed? Where are you and Fred headed? What's your unachievable goal?
I don't know. We have a defined unachievable goal right now. I've been going through this thing last year. It's kind of like I like to call my whiplash from KW. It's like really shied away from a lot of goals recently, and just been like, more of my goals are like really long term in the future, to where all I can really do is like the activities today and next month and next week that will continue to bring me towards them. Right. So that way I stay on the right path. I think at the end of the day, where we're going though, if I just sum it up, is I want to grow this group. When I say this group, I mean our EXP group, to tens of thousands. I want to continue to operate and run and own a real estate sales team in Tempe. And I got to be honest, I don't care if we sell 150 houses a year or 500 houses a year. I just want to let it operate, because that's been the thing that also is kind of like the hub of all the other things that we have going on, whether it's investing or spin-off companies, things like that. That's always kind of at the hub, and relationships, things like that. So I've really figured out in the last couple of years, I know that I like to be in the relationship business primarily with real estate agents. That's just where my heart is, and what I enjoy doing. And I know that I'll always have businesses kind of in that realm. And so continuing to sell real estate and keep people employed who we have employed, and grow that, and continuing from, on the rev share side of things, to continuing to grow that, because that is, at this point it's become, the priority, business wise.
Well, I know that right now, I know that EXP just had their earnings call, on the 3rd of August, I think. They're projecting, I think right now we're 83,000 agents, and we'll break 100 by the end of the year, and 200 by 2025. Is that
Something like that,
right?
Yeah, I don't know
that.
I don't know the exact predictions on that right now, but yeah, we're growing. It's such a rocket ship.
It is. The thing, and I'll say this and I'll let you go. The thing that I took away from when I very first looked at EXP, and I don't remember if I came up with this on my own or if somebody told me this, but real estate is trying to learn technology, whereas EXP is a technology company that sells real estate.
Yeah. I think that's probably pretty accurate. I think you're probably pretty accurate.
It's so far ahead of the curve that, it's like, hey, just come on board and let's do what we do. Keep doing what you do. We're just going to help you do it better, faster, with less expense, and let's go kill it.
Yeah. And it's so funny. They've got such a huge lead and advantage in that standpoint. As anything that's successful, there's been a few copycat companies pop up, and they literally don't realize how against it they are. Like EXP's got such an unfair advantage at this point, that, you know, it's not to say that we're invincible, and yet the writing is on the wall. It's a matter of, as long as everybody does what they got to do. I mean, I can't imagine we're not going to be the number one company, real estate company on the planet within a few years, you know, both
Sure.
agent count wise, transaction wise, et cetera, because of those things.
Well, even just the information that came out at the most recent Inman Connect. I mean, they had a bunch of charts and stuff up there showing it. I mean, that's completely non-biased, third party. They will praise you one day and rake you over the coals the next. I mean, when you look at the charts in comparison, I mean, EXP was just off the charts in comparison to, you know, the standard brokerages, you know, Realty and ReMax and all that other stuff. So, well, hey, Kevin, I really want to appreciate you taking your time to speak with us today. You know, as a fellow team lead and agent, I look up to you and Fred, you know, as well as the many, many other people that we share in our same community, and look forward to connecting with you again very soon, and appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it.